There is still a place in line for you. Will you fit it? And food is a weapon. Don't waste it. What do these two quotes have in common? These two quotes came from propaganda posters created during World War II. These quotes reveal the devastation of the war on American families regarding enlistment and the economy crisis during the war. And shall no American forget that going into this war, the Great Depression had devastated the American people. We all remember those units our teachers taught us in elementary school. At a young age, we likely did not fully comprehend the devastation on American families who had loved ones who enlisted to serve our country and the devastation on the home front due to the economy crash. As a child, I was always fascinated with World War II memorabilia. I used to collect helmets of countries who fought in the war, coins that were used, like the United States Steel 1943 wheat penny, and I even purchased a Japanese rifle one time. However, I did not realize the stories that each of these pieces of history had to so many Americans. Stories like Hacksaw Ridge and Iwo Jima. Today, I strive to give you at least two take-home thoughts in regards to the effects of the war on lives lost on foreign soil, and how lives were lost on the home front due to the Great Depression. The enlistment numbers for World War II were a major contribution to the history of the war. Men were lined up to serve their country, and they were not afraid of the cost. They were also a big part of American history. World War II had the highest enlistment numbers out of any American war. In World War II, 6,332,000 Americans were volunteers, which means they willingly went off to fight a war for the country they loved. Also, World War II, 11,535,000 Americans were drafted into the war. That's the highest number of people drafted by the United States of America. The people who were drafted by the government were generally the middle children, or in some cases would be the youngest. The oldest child was never drafted, and if a family only had one child, he or she could not be drafted. If someone who was drafted didn't show up to the recruitment or acted like they did not receive the letter, he would be thrown in military prison until the war was over. The average time of service for both volunteers and drafted men was 33 months, but in some cases soldiers would stay and fight even after they were done serving. Between all four branches of military, the Marines, Army, Navy, and the Air Force, 39,538,064 men served their country bravely. These men who enlisted or were drafted are the heroes of our nation. If it weren't for them, we might be under Japanese or German rule to this day. World War II had the highest death rate or toll of any war the United States has ever fought in. The numbers were so high that it is an estimate and not an exact number, because some bodies and dog tags were lost and some people would sneak in to serve. In total, 407,316 men were killed in active duty while fighting. Most of the men who were a part of this large number were killed by guns. Some of these men, however, died from poison gas, grenades, bombs, airplanes, submarines, torpedoes, and tanks. These are all weapons that were created for this war and that were new to warfare tactics. 671,278 men were casualties, which means some were wounded and not just killed in action. Some of these men would get gunshot wounds, or in even more serious cases, get a leg or arm blown off by a grenade or landmine. There were roughly 618,000 men in total that lost their lives in the war effort due to diseases and unaccountable events. Diseases were known for being the deadliest thing on the battlefield. The Nazis didn't have more negative effects than the disease, because of the front lines, sickness would kill you quicker than lead would. The reason this was deadlier than any weapon of war was because there weren't many things medics could do on the front lines to help. The medics were prepared for gunshot wounds and to treat wounds from grenades and other weapons of war that the Germans and Japanese could throw at them, not things like pneumonia. Not only that, but the medical tools and medicines of the time were not what was needed to heal the sickly. They were not very helpful in the effort of saving lives. The tools the doctors and surgeons used were very unsanitary. They would use them on one person and then just run the tools in water to clean them. This can cause bloodborne pathogens to transport from one person to another. All in all, that could be why the injured and sick were lucky to be alive. The Great Depression was an economic crisis that hit America in the late 1920s. It struck the economy down so bad that millions were jobless and it only got worse. The Great Depression started when the stock market crashed in 1929, causing banks to go bankrupt and close down. This ultimately caused money that Americans had stored in their accounts to disappear. The Depression lasted for all of President Hoover's term. Americans began to blame him for the Depression and even started calling the shacks they stayed in Hoovervilles. The Great Depression found its way to Franklin Delano Roosevelt's presidency. Franklin Delano Roosevelt is best known for his help with the Depression, and he is also known for having polio and becoming crippled as time went on. The Depression resulted in millions of Americans being or becoming jobless, homeless, and deep in poverty. Roughly 7 million people starved to death during the Depression. Food was worth more than gold to the people during this time. However, when World War II started, things started to look up for the American economy. Jobs were added in order to build things such as planes, ships, weapons, vehicles, and other things used in the war. Scrap metal prices went up, and so everybody that had stuff laying around started going and taking it to the scrapyard and getting their money. People were finally going to work, and the government started to get more money and not be so far in debt. The war actually helped the United States come out of the Depression, even though the cost is plentiful in life. In conclusion, World War II was one of, if not the largest conflict in world history, for it was the cause of millions of deaths, economic crisis, and peace between nations. I hope today everyone has learned something they did not know. Maybe you will one day share this information with someone. I hope you all enjoyed the factual evidence I provided for you all. Maybe this information will help you one day. Thank you all for listening.